Hi everyone, Jason Hoppe here, and I am so excited to be here with you for Adobe Max 2021 and Adobe Illustrator. Now, if you've never used Illustrator before, or you've used it a little bit and you may find that it's a little bit frustrating, or you just want a little bit extra knowledge, this class is for you. Now, one of the biggest things that I get from students is that, I don't draw, I don't illustrate. Don't worry about it. This class is all about being creative, and I know everyone can be creative, and that is what I'm going to show you here. We're going to walk you through the simple, basic steps of creating very interesting ideas, logos, infographics, whatever you want to create, that's what we're going to do. So don't worry about drawing. Don't worry about illustration. We're going to go ahead and create. And yes, it's going to be exciting. I guarantee it. This is going to be absolutely fantastic, and I know you're going to love it. So let's take a look at this and get started at how we can launch Illustrator and jump right in. When you install Illustrator, this is what you're going to see. This is the Illustrator start screen. If you've done any recent work, you're going to see it listed at the bottom, and it gives you a few basic templates to start off with if you want to start with something that is a preset. Easiest way to do this, create the Click New button, and we have several different types of presets that you can choose, depending on what you're going to be working on, web, print, mobile, and so on. Adobe has several free templates, part of the Adobe Stock program. This is great. Allows you to download and edit artwork instead of creating everything from scratch. Once you choose your preset, you can come over and you can choose the width and the height of your working area, your units of measure, horizontal or vertical orientation, and the number of artboards. These aren't pages, these are actually artboards. So you may be doing the front and back of something, so that would require 2 artboards. Now I'm going to click the Create button. When we get our new document open, we're going to be able to work with the content. But let's get this set up so this works best for you. We have a very dark interface, and I'd like to lighten this up. On a Mac, I'm going to go to the Illustrator menu, Preferences, User Interface. If you're on the PC, these preferences are going to be at the bottom of the Edit menu. So under Preferences, User Interface, and I can choose a lighter interface, and I'm going to click OK. Now, I'd also like to make sure that I have all the content on my window in order for me to work. And that can be adjusted under the window menu under Workspace. Maybe I'm doing layout or painting or typography, and this will change the tools and the panels on the right-hand side. So this will give me all the functions and features that I would want to have. We're going to stick with the essentials here by going under Window, Workspace, Essentials. I get my toolbar and my panels. You may not have your control bar across the top here, so go under the window and click on Control. The control bar is going to be a duplicate, in most part, of the Properties panel here. If you don't have your Properties panel, Window, Properties will bring that Properties panel up. If you're working on a laptop, you may have a shorter control bar simply because the screen size isn't as big. So the Properties panel will definitely be your friend because we're going to have similar information in the control bar as we do in the Properties. Toolbar, if you double click on the top gray portion of the toolbar, you get a single column and a double column. Sometimes your toolbar disappears, and that happens if you hit your Tab key. Tab will turn them off, Tab will turn them back on. If you do lose your toolbar completely, go under the Window menu, go under Toolbars, and choose Basic, and that's going to give you your basic set of toolbars. If you want your advanced toolbar, that's going to show every single tool in your toolbar that Illustrator has. So, nice things to be able to know. We're going to stick with the basics. Learning the tools is very important. And when you hover over any of the tools, it's going to give you the name of the tool and the shortcut for that tool if there is an associated shortcut. Learning these shortcuts will definitely help because as you get into other Adobe applications, many of the shortcuts will be the same. Important to have. So that's our basic toolbar and setup that we're going to be working with here. And now we can get started in creating all of our ideas. Let's start by creating some shapes. Remember, we're not going to be drawing here. We're just going to be creating. So everything that we do is going to be basic shapes. In the toolbar, you'll see that we have our rectangle, polygon, ellipse, star tool, and line segment. Now, I don't want to go in every time and click and go through this list. So I'm going to click and hold my mouse, move my cursor over to the right-hand side where that bar and the arrow show up, and I'm going to release. This creates what's called a tear-off. Many of these tools have tools that are nested inside, so when you click on this and you click on that tear-off button, that gives you quick and easy access to all those tools. To close out of that tear-off, simply click the X in the upper left-hand corner of that little tear-off, and you're good to go. Let's start with basic shapes. Rectangle tool, letter M. Hit M on your keyboard, you're going to get your rectangle tool. Click and drag, you've got a rectangle. Pretty simple. I'm going to click and drag and draw another rectangle. And I notice when I draw this, I get this magenta line coming through at an angle. This tells me that this is proportionate. And it's being drawn as a perfect square. This is really nice. Maybe I want to draw a square, and the easiest way to do it is to do this, see that smart guide showing up, and that tells me I've got a perfect square. I love that. Let's jump over to our ellipse or our circle tool. That is the letter L. Again, when I draw, I simply take my cursor and I draw, and I can draw an ellipse. Or when I draw two, you can see I get a vertical and a horizontal guide. Those magenta lines are called smart guides. And this allows me to make sure that it is snapped vertically and horizontally, proportionately, so that I get a perfect circle. How great is that? Now, faster way of doing this. I'm going to go to my rectangle tool, the letter M, and I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to hold down my shift key. Now, while I hold my shift key, that's going to constrain no matter what size I draw. Make sure you let go of your mouse first and then your shift key afterwards to keep it constrained. Same thing works with the ellipse tool. Click and drag, and then you can introduce the shift key at any time. And that allows you to keep that in proportion. Let go of your mouse first. Let go of your shift key. Pretty sweet, huh? Absolutely. Let's jump over to your polygon tool. If I click on the polygon tool, I can click and drag, and I can draw a polygon. Well, that's awesome. Now, I'm not going to let go of my mouse. You can still see I've got my mouse held down. And when I'm drawing this with my mouse still held down, I'm going to tap the up arrow key, which is going to add sides to my polygon. Tap the down arrow key, and that's going to take them away. Ever want to create a triangle? That's how you do it, with a polygon and three sides. Now, once you've drawn a shape and you'd like to move it around, we're going to go back to our selection tool, which is the letter V. I can then select and move these objects around once I'm done working with them. And I can select that shape, move it wherever I want to. Cool. We're going to be doing a lot of that. So now I can take my polygon, draw any multi-sided shape that I want. Let's try that with the star as well. I'm going to click on the star tool. I'm going to click and drag, and there's a star. Now, your star may look a little different than mine, but that's easy to change by doing this. So I drag the star tool, holding the mouse down. Don't let go. There's times to let go. This isn't one of those times. While you're drawing your star, tapping the up arrow key will give you added points. Tapping the down arrow key will subtract those points. Now, don't let go of your mouse yet. Hold your Command on the Mac or Control on the PC, and you can pull out from the center to get longer points, or push in toward the center to get shorter points. I know. Is that not awesome or what? Pretty cool. Okay, so we've just created rectangles, squares, ellipses, circles, polygons, a triangle, and a star. Super cool. Okay, faster shortcuts. Going to go back to my rectangle tool, which is the letter M. If I want a square or a rectangle a certain size, I'm not going to draw it. Take the rectangle tool and simply click once on the artboard. Enter in your value. Maybe you're working in millimeters, but it's showing inches. Not a problem. 50 millimeters. Then I'm going to highlight the next field and say 50 millimeters. Again, it converts it to the size, and it gives me that shape. Go back to my Move tool, click on my object, move it all around. I can do the same thing with the ellipse. There's my shape, 1 inch by 1 inch. Click OK, and it gives me my perfect circle, 1 inch wide, 1 inch high. Polygon tool, I'm going to click with the polygon tool here. It asks me, what's the radius, measuring from the middle to the outside point. So if I say 0.75 and it asks me how many sides I'd like, I choose 5, I click OK. That gives me the polygon. Anytime you create a polygon, that's going to be your default for all the polygons that you draw from there on out. Once you change the number of sides, then you can go through and have that as your new default right there. Now, we're out of space. I'm going to grab my selection tool, which is a letter V, and you can select these one by one to delete them, or you can click in the free space meaning we're not clicking on any artwork, and you can click and drag and create a selection field over your content, which allows you to do this. Move this all around as well, or delete this all at once. Pretty sweet. Going to the star tool, I'm going to click on the star, and this gives me a little bit more complicated setting here, but nonetheless, it's easy to figure out. Radius 1, what is that? That is from the center point of the star to its furthest tip out. Radius 2 is going to be from the center point of the star to its closest tip, and then the number of points. Okay? That gives you a very nice star. Pretty simple. That easy, folks. And I know you've learned so much already just in drawing those basic shapes. I'm going to grab the line tool. The line tool, you click and drag. How hard can that be? Not a problem. You want to draw a straight line? Sure. If you draw a line and you want it to be straight, hold down your Shift key. Vertical, still holding my mouse down, and the Shift key, you can see you can snap that to vertical, 45, or horizontal as you go. That simple. I love it. You want a line a certain length? Not a problem. Click. It asks you how long you want it. It asks you the angle at which you want that line. You click OK, and you've got that line. Simple. That's how easy it is to create shapes in Illustrator. Okay? That simple. Now we're going to open up the supplied file, the beginning Illustrator shapes. And we're going to take this a step further here. And we're going to create different looks and shapes out of our existing shapes that we have created here, all of which we've just done in the last few minutes. So, a lot of simple things here, but we're going to learn a little bit about navigation here, zooming in, zooming out, and moving around. Down here, nested with your hand tool and your zoom tool, these are two tools that we're going to use. Zooming in and out, zoom is the letter Z, you can simply click and drag left to right to zoom in and zoom out. Okay, kind of a scrubby zoom. If you'd like to move things around the page, you can go to your hand tool and you can just simply grab your hand tool and move around. Super handy. Okay, handy. Now, shortcuts for these. If I'm working on drawing a shape or I'm moving something around here, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go and I'd like to move this around quickly. Hold down your space bar and you will get your hand tool. That's a nice feature to have. If you'd like to zoom in very quickly and you're on the Mac, that is going to be Command Spacebar. If you're on the PC, it's going to be Control Spacebar. And that allows you to quickly access your zoom tool or your hand tool and be able to get this to flow much quicker once you learn those shortcuts. It's super nice to have. You're going to see me doing this because I'm going to be using those shortcuts as we go through. Now let's get into editing shapes. It is this simple, folks. Okay, we're going to show you how to rotate, scale, duplicate, and edit these this fast. Selection tool, letter V. I can click on any one of my shapes, and you'll see that I will have this bounding box around, these pull handles. I can click on any one of the corners or any one of the center points here and change the size or the proportion of this object. If I'd like to go and rotate an object, I can select it with my selection tool, hover outside any of the corners not touching the corner, but outside the corner, get my double-ended arrow to go ahead and rotate. Now, scaling. If I'd like to scale things proportionately, hold down the Shift key while I scale to keep those in proportion. Don't hold down the Shift key and you're going to stretch those one way or another. When you do scale, make sure that you let go of your mouse first and then your Shift key second so you don't lose your scale. When it comes to rotating, if you hover over the outside selected corner here, you can rotate at any angle. Introduce the Shift key, and that allows you to snap to 45-degree increments. I love it. If you would like to scale something from the middle, hold down your Shift key as well, and Option on the Mac or Alt on the PC to change where you scale from. Oh my gosh. Okay? That simple. Okay, you ready for this? Check this out. I've drawn a circle or an ellipse. I select it with my selection tool, and I've got this little lollipop sticking out the side. Okay? You want to do a little half moon shape or a little kind of open mouth feature right there? Look at that. You can go in and you can grab those little handles and you can change that circle or the ellipse. I know, that's simple. Yes, that's simple. If you have a polygon, you can easily edit the number of sides by clicking on the diamond here. Up will go ahead and move the number of sides down or reduce the number of sides. Down will go ahead and add sides. You want to create a stop sign or you want to create a, grab that little point again. And you created a stop sign. So triangle, I can move those down, create a pentagon, slide it up or down, and change the number of sides. That's pretty cool. Now you're going to want to go in and you're going to want to edit these even further, which is where we're going to get into the direct selection tool. Now, if I wanted to change one side here or skew this off or make this point taller, I need the direct selection tool, which is the letter A. The direct selection tool allows me to directly select a point or a line segment independent of the entire shape. Now, if you've ever used the direct selection tool, one of the biggest things that I hear from people is that it doesn't work. It does. And here's one of the things that you want to make sure you don't do. If you have your object selected with your selection tool, and then you switch over to your direct selection tool, everything on this object is selected. So when you try to move a single point or a single line, they're all selected. Click off your shape and either click on a corner or a line segment to move just that. Directly select that. If I directly select that corner, the key to this is that corner is now highlighted in solid blue and all the other corners are not. Those are hollow. This corner is active. All the other ones are not. I can then move that corner. I can also go in and I can move just one side. I can move a single point. That's simple. So now if I want to go in and I want to make something taller here, I can. Change the point of the star, directly select that point or that line segment, and away I go. It's different from selecting with the selection tool. The selection tool just gives me the ability to go in and select the entire shape, move it, rotate it, or change the proportions. The direct selection tool, once I click off and then click back on, allows me to specifically edit or directly select that point. Oh my gosh, I now have an egg. How cool is that? Yes, the direct selection tool. Good stuff to know. And this is something that you can then take any basic shape and create something else from it instead of drawing that shape. So many people think, I have to draw this shape. No, you don't. You can manipulate the shape with the direct selection tool to directly select and change that aspect ratio or the corners or the side or whatever that is to create what you want. The direct selection tool. Pretty sweet. One trick that I use all the time, if I want to just grab one corner or two corners, is I just simply click and drag over those areas with the direct selection tool to activate them, and then I can move those all around. I can't select the entire object and then move just one corner. I have to select just the corner that I'd like to manipulate. Speaking of manipulation and changing things, we're going to show you this next on how you can go in and edit the shapes even further. Now, let's go down here to our square. We've got a nice little square, and you'll notice when I click on any of these shapes that have corners, I get these little targets, okay? Now, I'm not going to get those when I have an oval or a circle, but I'll get something that has multiple corners or multiple sides. These are corner widgets, and corner widgets will rock your world. These targets, which I refer to them as targets, corner widgets here, are going to show up on any time that you have a corner. I'm going to select this, and it doesn't matter if you use your selection tool or your direct selection tool, you're going to get those corner widgets. I'm using my selection tool. When I hover over any one of those corner widgets or those targets, it looks like I've got this little unhappy face under my cursor. That's just telling me when I pull this corner widget in toward the center, I can widget those corners. Now, I can pull those back out or in to change those corners. If I'd like to change just one corner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click, and you'll notice when I double click, it'll call up my transform panel, and this allows me to go in and transform each corner separately if I unlink this, okay? And if it doesn't work when you double click and the transform panel doesn't come up, you can always go into the window menu and call up the transform panel this way. I'm going to show you how to edit directly on the shape. So I target my shape, double click, and it turns this into what I call the fat donut. You can see how that's got a darker blue. And this allows me to adjust this corner independently. Double click on that, pull that out, double click on that, pull that out, double click on that, pull that in. And now I've got kind of this cool stylized feather look. Okay, that's pretty awesome. I like that. Now, anything that has corner widgets, yep, you can go in and work with them, okay? If I go in with my direct selection tool on some of these shapes that I've created, I can go in and I can edit those corners separately. Go in, select my shape here, target that one corner, so I can do that separately and change that. I love that feature. Here's the one that's going to blow your mind. Here is a star that I've created. And this only works when you use the direct selection tool. In fact, I'm going to go grab my zoom tool here, and I'm going to zoom in on this because you're going to need to see this. I'm going to hold down my space bar to get my hand tool, and we're going to make this front and center. Back to my direct selection tool. You'll notice when I click on my direct selection tool, I get all these corner widgets. I get them that are in the valleys and on the peaks. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to widget those corners, okay? I don't want to go all the way in, and all the way is going to give me that red line there. So I want some place between the maximum point and the minimum point right there. And now I got kind of like this amoeba shape. But you know what? There's 3 different corner styles that you can have. In fact, I'm going to show you those really quick so you get an idea of what we're going to do. If I draw a rectangle or a square, you can see that I got rounded corners. If I hold down my Option or my Alt key, and Option or Alt click on one of those targets or those corner widgets, it will allow me to cycle through corners, inverted corners, and flat. Now, you have to have pulled your corner widgets in. If you don't pull your corner widgets in and use your Option or Alt, it's not going to do anything. You must pull them in, hold down your Option or Alt, and cycle through. I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool, select my star that I've pulled my corner widgets in, and now I'm going to cycle through. This is just a standard rounded corner. Hold down the Option or Alt key and Option or Alt click. Now we've got this little virus thing. Oh my gosh, how perfect is that? Check this out. I'm going to select the whole thing again with my direct selection tool, go to any one of the corner widgets, hold down my Option or Alt key, and do the flat corners. I'm going to pull those in. I now have a gear. I didn't draw a gear, I created a gear. Isn't that awesome? I'm going to go back to my hand tool here, and I'm going to double click on my hand tool. That's going to fit everything back into the window. Okay, this is like bonkers, is it not? I know. See all the things we've created already? couple other cool things too. Duplicating. I don't use copy and paste very often. I'm going to take my selection tool, select my object, and if I'd like to duplicate something, I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key. Option or Alt will double up my cursor, and you can see when I then Option or Alt click and drag, I can simply duplicate that object super quick. Grab this stylized leaf, hold down the Option or Alt, click and drag, and now I have a duplicate of it. These are the fantastic things that you can do with creating anything you could imagine with basic shapes. We really didn't draw any of this. We just basically used the simple shapes that were in there, and now we can change them all. It's that cool. Now I know I've thrown a lot at you so far, but there's even more cool stuff to come. Let's talk about lines, basic lines really quickly. I'm going to go up to my tear off here with my line segment. I'm going to hold down my Shift key and I'm going to draw a line segment. Now, it comes up and it doesn't look like there's anything there because we don't have any weight or any color applied to it. So if I go up into my control bar here, I can control the stroke of that weight right there with the stroke menu. And I can also do the same thing in my properties panel and control the stroke here. Okay. Now, lines can be fun because we can add arrowheads and tails and round, or what I call hot dogging the ends. Okay. So I'm going to take my zoom tool and I'm going to zoom into my line so we can see this a lot better. To change the lines, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the window menu and I want to call up my stroke panel. And my stroke panel will come up here and I need to click on the little drop down menu and choose the show option so we can see everything that the stroke panel has to offer. Here we can change the weight of the line, but we can also change the end caps here. So if you want blunt ends or you want round ends here, which I call hot dogging the ends because it looks like a hot dog, that's pretty cool. We can also add arrowheads and tails to our objects here, one end or the other. And these tend to be very large, so I'm going to cut down the scale of these ends here by typing in the scale right there. And if my arrowheads go the wrong way, I can always click on the flip portion to change my arrowhead. So pretty simple. Now we can also add a stroke or an outline to an object as well. Okay, it isn't just for lines. So if I take my shape and I'd like to add a stroke, I can always go up into my control bar here and add a stroke around it. And of course, the last used color will come up, and I can change the weight of that stroke around the object as well. So pretty simple stuff when it comes to being able to do lines or curves or strokes around objects. Next, I want to talk about actually extending these shapes further, being able to do more things with these shapes than just simply manipulate the shape itself. What I want to do is I want to talk about the Shape Builder tool. And I'm going to zoom in down here to my two shapes. And I had duplicated this circle. In fact, I'm going to delete this one by selecting it with my selection tool and hitting delete. I'm going to show you how you can create different things with the Shape Builder tool. Check this out. I'm going to select my object with my selection tool, hold my Option or Alt key and click and drag and duplicate that shape. I'm now going to select both of those shapes at once. With the Shape Builder tool, which is right here in the toolbar, Shift M is the shortcut if you can't find the Shape Builder tool. The Shape Builder tool allows me to add or subtract shapes when they're overlapping or touching. My cursor is set in the default mode of Add, which means if I want to create something very quickly, I can add these shapes together. So I have two circles and I want to turn this into kind of this 8 shape. I can simply go in, select those shapes, take my Shape Builder tool and drag over all of them, and it actually creates one whole shape out of this. That's pretty awesome. I'm going to go under the Edit menu and I'm going to do Undo, which is Command or Control Z. What happens if I'd like to take out this shape in the middle? Just get rid of this shape. Now, I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key. I have them both selected. Shape Builder tool is selected. With the Option or Alt key, you're going to see that the cursor is going to change to minus, and I can click on that, and I can remove that shape. That's pretty awesome. Again, I'm going to go under the Edit menu and undo that. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to end up with a leaf, this little leaf inside here. So I have my object selected, my shape builder tool, hold down my Option or Alt to get the subtract, and I'm going to click on those areas in which I'd like to subtract. You have just created a leaf. Okay? You didn't draw the leaf, you created that. Isn't that awesome? I'm going to go back to the hand tool here, double click, and get that back on the page. Now I want to show you another cool trick that they added just recently here. I'd like to take this leaf and turn it into a flower. I'm going to take my selection tool. I'm going to move this leaf up here. I think I created a duplicate of it. I'm going to move this leaf up and I'm going to reduce it down in size. Go to the corner, pull handle, hold down Shift. Okay, make it a little bit smaller. Now I'd like to create a nice little ring of leaves. With my leaf selected here, remember I didn't draw it, I created this. I'm going to go to the Object menu, go to Repeat, and I want to do a radial repeat. The radial repeat allows me to duplicate this around in a radius or a circle. Using the up or down arrow allows me to control the instances of this. Grabbing the circle at the top allows me to stretch those out overall. And using the little clamshells here allows me to control how many of these shapes I would like to have in my repeat. Isn't that awesome? I know. You can do all these things, object, repeat, and you can do a grid, you can do a mirror, and then you can also control the options. This is super cool. What does the grid look like? What does the mirror look like? We'll give it a shot, okay? Because there's so many fun things that you can do. That's awesome. I know that's awesome, and I know you love that. Try it with anything here. I'm going to try it with this circle. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Object, repeat, and I'm going to do a grid. And when I do a grid here, this allows me to create a grid closer together, further apart, and I can push and pull kind of like window blinds, so you can create a complete pattern here, folks. I know, this is a lot of fun. Sweet, sweet thing to have. Now I want to show you one more tool that's going to help you push your creativity in even further, and that's what's called the curvature tool. And the curvature tool is this little pen tool with a little snake, and that is Shift tilde. So tilde is next to your number 1 key right there. Now your curvature tool is pretty awesome. Any shape or any line that you'd like to then curve allows you to take your curvature tool and simply touch that shape. Doesn't even have to be active. And you take the curvature tool and you click, and it's going to add a point to that, and you can then push or pull and curve that shape. Yes, that easy. There's a line, you want to curve that line, look at that. You have any type of shape here, that's pretty cool. Awesome. To get out of this tool when you're done, simply hit your escape key, and then that will break it so it doesn't want to keep drawing after your curvature tool. How can this curvature tool work really well for you? Check this out. I'm going to grab this red square that I've created, and I'm going to then hover over the outside edge with my selection tool, hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to rotate this so that it's kind of this diamond shape. I'm going to use my curvature tool, and I'm going to click on the upper right-hand segment, kind of in the middle here, and I'm going to pull this out like that. I'm going to go over to the upper left-hand segment, land a point there, and pull that out right there. Don't you just love that? There's a heart, folks. Did you ever try to draw a heart? Don't worry about it. You don't have to, but you can create one with the curvature tool. And it works on any shape. It doesn't have to be round or square, whatever. Touch anywhere that you want to, and you can then go in and have fun with the curvature tool. It is great. Now let's talk about color. You have a pre-defined set of colors in Illustrator when you start up your Illustrator document. You'll be able to see those in your control bar by clicking on your fill or your stroke drop-down menu. You can also see them in your properties panel, but you'll have to have an object selected in order to see the fill color and the stroke or the outline color. To change these colors, you can select your object with your selection tool, change your fill color from your fill panel here, change your stroke color from the same drop-down panel just next to it, And then you can also change your stroke weight as well quite easily. Same thing here in your properties panel. Click on the color, allows you to choose from your list of swatches, or you can make your own colors by using your color picker and using the slider. Okay? So different ways to go ahead and create this. Very common way, however, is going into your toolbar, clicking on your fill color, double click on the fill color, and displaying your colors sometimes show differently. So you can click on your hue, saturation, or brightness. Most people like the brightness because it shows the entire spectrum. Here, I can select a color that I'd like for my fill, because I double clicked on my fill here, and I click OK. And then I can click on my stroke. And when I bring my stroke forward here, it calls up my color panel, which you can also go into the window menu, call up color here. And this is yet another way to go in and change colors by using your color panel. But I'm going to go back here to my color picker, and I'm going to change my stroke color and click OK. Why do people like the color panel? Well, people love the color panel because it shows the entire visible spectrum right here. Keeping in mind that you have to make sure that you select your stroke or your fill and make those active, either here in the color panel or here in your toolbar. So if my fill is active, I can simply click on the entire spectrum and get that color in there as well. It's beautiful. One feature I love, the eyedropper tool. I have my rectangle selected here, and click I on your keyboard, the eyedropper tool. If you'd like to sample another color or another fill or stroke or both from another object, select your object, grab the eyedropper tool, and click on that other object. And that will pick up all of the fill and stroke attributes of that color. That's simple. It's beautiful. Now, one other thing when you get into more complex creations here is being able to change the colors of an object when you have multiple colors in an object. Here I have a fire hydrant, and I'm going to select the entire thing. What I'd like to do is I'd like to make this as a completely different hue, but I don't want to go in and target each and every color individually and spend a lot of time. So I'm going to select my object. In the control bar, I'm going to click on this wheel, the recolor artwork, or in the properties panel, I can come over here and click on the recolor button. This brings up the recolor panel, and I can do two things very quickly. I can control how light or how dark those colors are in that selected object. And I can also take my little paddles, my little lollipops here, and swing these around my spectrum to change all those colors as a group. And I can then change those colors, keep all the shades and all the tones the same, but just quickly go in and change the color. Now, it doesn't have to be a complex object. It can be a simple one. Click on the recolor here, and here I've got two colors. I can make those lighter or darker overall, and I can simply change them, and I can saturate them by dragging them out on the color picker or dragging them in to desaturate. Isn't that cool? Let's have fun with type. When you're creating things in Illustrator, type is one of those things you definitely want to have some fun with. Grab the type tool, letter T is the shortcut, and I'm going to click and we can set some type. Now, I'm going to highlight it with the type tool, and I'm going to go into my character settings here, and I'm going to use the control bar because it's going to give us a nice list. I can do it in the properties panel over here too, but it kind of puts it off to the side for display purposes. Here I have a lot of fonts that are in my font menu. Great thing, I can just simply scroll through with my mouse and it'll automatically show me what these different typefaces look like on screen. I love this. Now, I'm looking for a particular typeface and I'm kind of in client mode, and clients are like, well, I'll tell you what I like when I see it. Well, if you go in and you say, you know what, I think this looks kind of cool here. I'm going to choose that, maybe choose a different weight of this typeface as well, change the size of it. Okay, cool. But I'm still looking for something, and it's like, gosh, I wish I could have all these different typefaces. Well, check this out. Here's the one that I have active, and I'd like to find other similar ones here. So I'm going to highlight this in my character menu and click on this little wavy And that's going to show similar fonts that I have active in my system, ones that are very close to what I've chosen. And it's like, okay, this is super helpful. But you know what? I want more. So I go to the font menu and I click on the Find More button. And this is going to give you all of the Adobe fonts that are available to you as part of your Adobe subscription, showing up here in your entire font list. Now, when you do this, it may take a second or two to load, or even 30 seconds, okay? So you'll have to be a little patient. Now I can scroll through and I can see all the different typefaces that are available to me through the Adobe font list. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. So I can see this and I like this typeface. Show me all the similar typefaces here that I can load in. Oh, I love this. That looks really cool. How do you get that font? This easy. Go to that little download right there and choose Activate. And do you want to activate this font? Yes, I do. It's now in my menu and you can see it's activating right here and it's done. And it's now in my font menu. So if I go back to my fonts here, and the name of that was Chuck. So I'm just going to type in Chuck right here. And there's the typeface active. This is great. Want to change the color of the type? You can either highlight the whole thing with your type tool, go to your color picker, and choose a color that you'd like so. Or you can just simply select the entire thing with your selection tool, go to your color picker, and pick whatever flavor you want. I love that. Basic type editing here. Here's a nice trick. If you select the type with the type tool, don't go over with your selection tool, sorry. You don't have to go to your type tool and activate that. If you double click, you're going to be able to get to your type tool that easy. To get out of your type tool, simply hit escape and it goes back to your selection tool. That's a quick little shortcut. I like that. You can choose the size of your type here from your drop-down menu. And if you'd like more controls, you can go over to your properties panel in your character section here, control the point size and control the leading. And the leading is going to be space between your lines. And that's going to give me more or less leading here as well. You can also track these out, or tighter or looser. And you can set your paragraph formatting, centered, right justified, left justified. Simple and easy to do. So many things to explore with type. But it's really just that easy, folks. You have all these fonts at your fingertips here, right there with a Find More. Nice to have. No instruction would be complete until we actually create something like a finished logo. So I'm going to show you how easy this is to do. In this file, which is called the Roasters logo, I've created some basic shapes here, and we're going to turn this into the logo right here, this easily. I'm going to zoom in a bit so we can see how this works. Grab your direct selection tool. Top object here, I'm going to select the upper right-hand point and activate that point, so only that corner widget is active. I'm going to pull that corner widget in and down until it goes no further. Click on the lower left point of that upper object, activate the corner widget, pull that up until it goes no further, and click off. We've just created the feather. The vertical red rectangle, click on the upper right-hand corner, shows the corner widget, pull that down and to the left until it stops. Click off that. Click on the yellow upper right-hand corner, pull that corner widget down until it stops. Click off that object. Lower red rectangle, click on the lower right, pull that corner widget up to the left, click off that object. Upper left-hand corner of the body, grab that corner widget, pull it down about the point where it starts to curve or match the curve of the upper feather, click off that. That simple. Now, if you open this file and this typeface didn't show up, one of the new features is that the new versions of Illustrator should auto-activate that font. And this font is one that's in part of the Adobe system, so it should auto-activate. If it doesn't, it'll show in pink, and that's not a problem. It just shows that the font is missing. So I'm going to click on my Type tool. I'm going to click over here, and then I'm going to type in the name of my logo. I'm going to select all the copy, go over to my properties panel in the character section, and I'm going to increase the size of that font. I'm going to choose a font that I think is going to work very well for this. And so if I like this, and then I'd like to find any similar fonts, I can choose whatever similar fonts that I've got highlighted there, and I've got my logo. Looks pretty cool. With my type selected, with my selection tool, I'm going to type the letter I for my eyedropper tool, and then I can go through and see how this is going to look with the different colors of my logo. Pretty cool. Now I want to take this and put it into my library because I'd like to share this with somebody else, collaborate on this, or use this in some of my other projects that are not in Illustrator. So I'm going to call up my libraries panel. If you don't have that up, go into the window, call up libraries. I'm going to select my entire logo, object, and group this all together. Now, libraries are going to go across all the Adobe applications. So when I put something in my library here, I can open up this library and I can use it in another application. Not a problem. Take the logo and I'm going to drag it into my library and it's going to add it as artwork, which is great. If I'd like to go in and I'd like to add a specific color, say I like this color here, I'm going to select this object, go to the bottom of my library, click the plus, and add that color in there. Maybe I like the color of the beak too. I'm going to add that color as well, and the color of the body. I'm going to add that color. Why? Because I may be working in Photoshop or InDesign or Animate, and I want to be able to pull those colors without having to recreate them. They're in my library, which is great. Now, in the other applications, I can just open up this library, go to whatever application I'm using, go under Window, Library, open this up, and select these colors or drag this graphic right out into the application that I'm working with. If I want to go and I want to save this for web use, I can select my grouped object here, go under Window, Asset Export, drag this grouped asset into here, and I can then export at any different sizes for my PNGs, JPEGs, scalable vector graphics, or even a PDF. Easy way to go and do this, which is great. I want to save this file. I'm going to go into the File menu. I'm going to choose Save As. If I'd like to save this on my computer, I can save it directly. If I'd like to save it in the cloud, I can click on the Save It to the Cloud, and this is going to save it to my cloud documents in the Adobe Creative Cloud, which I will have access to any place that I have an internet access. On my laptop, computer, desktop, or iPad, when I save it to the Creative Cloud, I can access this and share it anywhere that I want to, which is absolutely great. And there we have it, folks, that desktop portion of Illustrator. Now we're going to show you how this works on the iPad. Now let's talk about Illustrator on the iPad. A lot of similar features, a lot of different features. Namely, we have no keyboard on the iPad to work with. So everything's going to be done with the Apple Pencil and the same basic controls we have on the desktop version. First of all, we have our selection tool that's at the very top, and then we also have all of our drawing tools, circle, square, polygon, star, and line. They're going to work very much the same. You'll notice that you get that constraint when you get a perfect circle or a perfect square. But the big difference is you get this little bar underneath here that allows you to control multiple different features. Starting from left to right, the first icon is controlling the opacity. Second is the stroke weight. Third is the layer order. Fourth is moving this around. The fifth one is the lock. Next to that is our group and ungroup. Second to the last is going to be our duplicate. And then, of course, our last one is the trash can. Now, if you accidentally do something, go up to the top of your screen, press the left arrow. That's going to be your undo, and it'll get it back. Your zoom in and zoom out is going to be at the top center portion of your screen, and this allows you to have a scroll wheel to move things around very nicely. 2 fingers on your iPad screen will allow you to get the hand tool and move these around. When you're drawing with these shapes, we can also draw from the center, and we can constrain by using our control wheel. The center of the control wheel down here is going to act like the shift, and then you click and you move your finger to the outer ring, and that's going to be your Option or your Alt. So if I draw a shape and I click on the center of the wheel, that's going to constrain. And if I'd like to rotate, I'm going to go back to my selection tool. I can grab on the top pull handle, and I can rotate my object around here, but I can click on the center portion of the control wheel to snap that into 45-degree increments. If I'd like to duplicate an object, underneath I have my icons. The second one from the right is going to be duplicate. Tells me I've duplicated this. Take my selection tool and move that. If you've gotten into shortcuts, we can also use the Option or Alt to duplicate, which is click on the control wheel, slide to the outer ring, click and drag with our selection tool, and we get a duplicate. Pretty cool. If I select two or more objects, I can group those together. Third icon from the right is group, and now I can scale those together. Ungroup, click off them, and now I have those all separate. Works pretty well. Click on the trash, away they go. If I draw a line, lines are a little bit easier here on the iPad because lines by default are now constrained to be horizontal or vertical, which works really well. Second icon from the left, under your line, this allows you to very quickly and easily control the weight of the line. Kind of nice. So now directly on the object, you have the line control, the stroke control right there. To change the color of these objects, you can go to the right-hand side. Second one from the top is our Properties panel, those three little slider bars. You can click on the Appearance section, click on the Fill rectangle, go around your Hue ring, and then click on your Saturation and Brightness. You can use your sliders, or you can choose from the color in your Swatches panel down below. Click back on your Fill to retract that. Click on the Stroke, and you can do the same thing with the stroke. A little bit easier, I'm going to retract that Properties panel. A little bit easier is going to the left-hand side here and clicking on the Fill or Stroke like we have in the desktop version of the toolbar, where I can click on the Fill or the Stroke and get the same settings. The arrows in between allow me to swap the fill and the stroke with the object. Pretty simple stuff. I like it. Now, I'm going to duplicate this object. Select it with my selection tool, click the duplicate button, and move this. I'm just going to change the color on the top one here so we can see this a little bit better. And there we go. I'm going to click and drag with my selection tool over both of these, and now I'm going to show you how we can work with merging these objects together or taking them apart using the Shape Builder tool. Go to your Combine Shape, click on the Shape Builder tool. We don't see the tool in the toolbar here, but it tells us we're in the Shape Builder tool. Now, normally we would see the icon, a little arrow with the plus on it, but if I were to go over and drag over all of these, you can see this will put these all together. We're still in the Shape Builder tool, but I'm going to undo this by clicking on the undo arrow at the top. I'm going to go back, and I'd like to delete where these two overlap. So I'm going to have to hold down my Option or Alt key, which is clicking on the control wheel, sliding to the outside, and drawing over the area that I would like to delete. When I'm done with using the Shape Builder tool, combining shapes or deleting shapes, up here where it says Shape Builder and then Done, you have to click the Done button, and then you have all your content. You can click on these separately now, and you can see that you now have the separate shapes, and you can put those together into a logo if you'd like. We still have the Direct Selection tool. It looks slightly different. That is the next tool down, so you can directly select a corner or a line segment on any one of these, and you can move these around, and you can edit. You also see that you can get your corner widgets as well when you select with your Direct Selection tool. You can see the corner widgets on any of these that have corners, and if I select the entire shape, I see all my corner widgets. I can widget those corners. On the iPad, we only have rounded corners. We don't have flat, and we don't have inverse rounded ones. So that's something that you have to be a little bit cognizant of as you go through. So basic stuff, basic shapes, a lot of similarities. There's a few little extra features here, but a few other features that are not quite as dynamic as a desktop version because we don't have the mouse. But it's pretty quick and easy to learn once you understand the desktop features. I'm going to select this content here, and I'm going to use the trash can here to get rid of them. Now I'm going to grab my type tool, and I click, and it's going to call up my properties panel with all of my type content on it. And I can move this around with the selection tool as well, keeping the type active. And very much like the desktop version, I can go and I can search for special fonts in here like I had done, and I can choose a typeface that I like by clicking on that as well. I can go back and I can see that I have my font menu here. Halfway down, I also have the different versions of that font, and I can click on the type size and use my little active scroll to go in and change that. If I go back in and I double click on my text, that is going to allow me to edit this text. And I can then, when I double click or I select my type tool, I can then get my keyboard in here. And with my keyboard, I can now go in and I can type something on the keyboard. Again, not as easy to use, but nonetheless, since we have no keyboard, this is what we have to go ahead and work with. We have all of our controls directly underneath our type here. So starting from the left, we have our type size, which makes it really nice. We have our letter spacing, which we can bring together. So this actually works easier here on the iPad. If we've got multiple lines of text, I can go in and I can call out my keyboard and I can press return to break the type, go back to my selection tool, and then I can control my leading as well. I love these functions and features here. You want to change the color of your type? Not a problem. We can go over to the left-hand side of the color picker, choose our hue, go into our saturation and brightness, and change the color of the type in there as well. We also have the ability in our properties panel to, again, change our paragraph formatting, left, centered, right, justified as well in there. So many similar features, works very much the same. We do have our repeat feature, which I showed you when we were going in and working with our really cool feature when we had our object. And that repeat is one of those things that we can do in here. And we have our repeat with our radial. We've seen this on the desktop version where we can go in and choose the repeat. We can control the spacing here, which is really nice. Click back on that repeat. We can do a grid or a mirror or a blend. Lots of fun stuff to do. So that's a really nice feature to be able to have. Now, one other feature that we have in here that's a little bit more robust is our ability to go in and I'm going to use the pencil tool here. I'm going to draw this and I'm going to switch the fill for the stroke by going over into the toolbar and switching the fill for the stroke. I'm going to select that with the selection tool, control the stroke weight of that as well. And now, if we go in, we have the ability to mess with our paths here, and I'm going to go back to my direct selection tool, and you'll notice that I now get some cool features underneath here. With the direct selection tool on a curvy line, I can go in and do some interesting things. I can go in and I can actually take points and I can make them points instead of curves. That's kind of cool, okay? I can also go back in and I can cut out sections too. I can simply cut, and now I've simply cut those sections. And again, a little bit different than the desktop version, but pretty dynamic if you're going through there and you're more a sketcher or an artist and you want to be able to move things around and take sections out. Could be really cool. When you're done and you're finishing with your editing, what you do is you click the upper left-hand arrow to get out of what you're working on. That's going to be your save, okay? So this goes in and this saves everything to the cloud. When you're working on the desktop, it'll ask you, do you want to go ahead and save this to your cloud or to your computer? Here, if you save it to the cloud, it's going to allow you to have access to these both on your desktop and your iPad version here. So it makes it really nice to be able to work with this. Now, once you're done saving, you can see any of your recent features when you call up Illustrator, and you'll be able to go in and simply click on this, open it back up on your Illustrator for the iPad here, And you notice that type, it reactivated the type, which is one of the features that it now has. It automatically activates the type instead of you having to activate those fonts. So if you ever want to learn any more features here, click on the Learn button. A whole bunch of different things that you can learn with the iPad, other video tutorials for creative ideas, or just some brushing up on your skills. You can also go to Discover, which is going to give you a lot of great videos and other people's work as well. Check that out. So I hope you enjoyed this little quick overview of what Illustrator for the iPad does. Well, folks, that's the end of our hour together on the basics of Illustrator on the desktop and on the iPad. And I hope this has helped you out tremendously in being able to learn Illustrator, see how easy it is to go in and create. I know it's always a hurdle when you see these really cool, beautiful creations, but you know what? Now you can do it too. It's not about drawing, it's not about illustration. It's all about basic shapes, color, and type. So I hope this cleared up so many little bits and pieces for you and really got you excited about getting into more of what Illustrator can do for you. So I hope to see you again, and I hope you enjoy all of the other classes here at Adobe Max. It's been a great pleasure being able to share this with you, and I can't wait to see what you go ahead and create. Thanks, everyone.